So I read just before you guys came, so you
She's
have multiple
shaking.
bites, right?
Yes.
One was to, I think you said your brother-in-law?
So the first two, so I'll warn you, I'm a talker. I can go way into it a lot, and I'll also share that there's a lot of I worry a lot about this and a lot of guilt about why I haven't done anything sooner.
Okay.
So who knows if I'll get emotional. So I've had Tara for almost 5 years now. And the first bite was in December 2020. I got her in January 2020, and it would have been at Christmas with my family when I wasn't there, or it was at New Year's, so there were a lot of stressors, like fireworks, and I wasn't there. I was at a different party, and she was with my mom, who she trusts a lot, and she was out and bit my uncle when they were sitting in a circle of chairs in the backyard. He walked in with some beers. He was loud and drunk, and he is also somebody who has been bit before, so I think he was a little antsy too. And she
By
jumped.
another dog?
Yes, when he was younger, bit his thigh, I think, and I think ripped into his jeans and drew blood, but didn't clamp down, and he didn't need stitches. No, my uncle. He's
When he got bit
when he was bit, yes, I think he was young, and the only dog he's used to is his wife's, who's itty bitty.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then I want to say 4 years went by without her, or 3 years went by without her biting anyone. Within that time period, she had lunged at people, did a thing where she kind of snaps, but didn't.
On a walk?
No, so the instances were, one was one time at a outdoors at a restaurant, which she, when we were in Waco, when we lived in Texas, she went pretty often with me to walks. We lived downtown, so we'd sit on porches, and she would be fine with that.
Yep.
But one time she, when a waitress came by, kind of stepped close to her, went on her leg, and the woman had shorts on and didn't break any skin, but it was still scary.
Yep.
And then another time in there, she was with us at a private hunting lodge, so a private space. It was just my family and my sisters and their dogs, but there were some staff who were setting out food or something, and she did the same thing where she went on someone's thigh, didn't break the pants or the skin, but then the other bites that happened were this summer. She was with my family in North Carolina. We were at our house. I was gone at a wedding with you, and she bit a different uncle, another one of my mom's brothers, who's also loud and drunk, but she had met him several times, was comfortable with him, had let her pet him, but then later in the night in the same place, this circle of chairs in our backyard, when he came in holding something, she jumped out and bit him on the thigh. I don't think she ripped his jeans.
So not as, I guess, bad as the first one?
No, but she didn't rip his jeans, but it was still more than warning kind of snap.
Sure.
And then maybe a week after that one, she was with my sister when I was out to dinner, and she was barking. My sister was like, "Tara's going crazy. I have my friend Justine over. Why is she acting like this?" I'm like, "Oh, you didn't tell me someone was coming over. Just put her in your bedroom, because she's just not good with strangers, and especially because I'm not with her, and you don't know how to watch for her signs." She put her in the bedroom, but then her bedroom door doesn't shut all the way, so Tara kind of crept out, and my sister was like, "Oh, she was just sitting there," so I just let her stay out. But then the friend reached down to grab something from her backpack, and Tara bit on her and drew blood, and that one was really scary because the friend is immunocompromised, and so really can't fight any infections, and can't get a tetanus shot.
Were there punctures, or was it?
I didn't look closely at her skin, but she broke the surface, and Justine went to her doctor and was like, "Will you check this out? I need you to look at this." And so I think Tara is on record then in North Carolina as having a bite.
So she's got one bite record?
I think so, yeah. I don't know if they go across states or what the deal is.
Yeah,
and then we were back at the private hunting lodge just 2 weeks ago, and she had her muzzle on, because now in the past couple months, whenever anyone's over, she's just had her muzzle on.
Yeah.
And so she sat with us most of the time and was fine, but at one point she ran, and if she hadn't had her muzzle on, I assume she would have tried to bite this person again. Another person just trying to set the table or something.
Yeah. Okay.
And so so there are a lot of times, like 95% of the time, she has stayed with other people that aren't me and been fine. She's stayed with some of my friends back in Texas several times, but again, they didn't have a lot of visitors, which is, I think, one of the big differences with when we're with my family, which is when all of these incidents have happened, except for the one time she tried to go for a waitress, because they just, there's more of us around. She's comfortable with everyone in my family and has spent time one-on-one with all of them in different situations over the past 5 years. And is comfortable with my sister's dog and my parents' old dog. But my parents have, my dad's secretary is coming over, dropping something off. There's somebody here to clean the house. There's people blowing just a lot more people around that she's not used to. And I also think then when my family's watching her, they're not as hyper aware because they're dogs they've had since puppies, golden retrievers that wouldn't hurt anyone, even if they were in trouble. So I think but I just am really anxious about it and don't, it's unpredictable because most of the time she's totally fine. She's been at my Super Bowl party, which was, a few of us, but she had met them all before and she was out and about playing and is doing just fine. And then we had a Halloween party once, which was a lot more people, but she just stayed back in the room. She wasn't barking when people came back to pet her if they wanted to. She didn't bother them. And so it's just hard to tell why sometimes does this and why other times she doesn't.
Okay. Anything else?
I talked a bit with the trainer over the summer, my parents' dog's old trainer, and I didn't keep up with the loose leash walking stuff. I don't mind that she pulls on the leash, but my mom was I think part of what you need to do with the training is just giving her more tasks and having more of a repertoire of, commands. So she'll stay in her place or things like that. But I think some of the trouble with me in the past has been that I lose either motivation or just the salience of the problem when I go home and we're home with just us for months and months. And the only people that come over are my neighbors who she's met 50 times. So it just,
It's like a complacency.
Yeah, and then that feels really bad because I'm she could get put down. I need to do something about it, and especially because my sister will probably have a kid soon, and I want her to be able to be safe in the house with the kid.
Has she been around kids?
Not really, no. I mean, she's seen them out and about, and she'll kind of look weird if they're spazzing out.
Yeah.
And there was a brewery we used to go to all the time, weekly, and she would come with us and do really well, let other people touch her and, be fine. But when the kids would come up and be can I pet? Or they'd come towards her, I'd be no, and she's a little shy. You can give her a treat, and that was about it that she would do. And then she would try and hide, under a table or something.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, that's kind of it.
Yeah.
I mean, like she was saying, from one situation to the other, kind of unpredictable. She did know a lot of the people that would come to our place, but I mean, some of those parties would have 15, 20 people, and she'd be okay.
Yeah.
And then one waitress comes out to set the table, and she's off.
When she's been fine the whole rest of the day or something.
Yeah, it's
So, when I read over the form, and then from what you're telling me now, and a couple things I've just seen within the past 5 to 10 minutes you've been talking, is I believe you have a nervous territorial dog.
Okay.
Okay. So fear, anxiety, nervousness look similar because they're not confident behaviors, but they have distinctive features that allow me to determine which of it is troubling the dog. Okay. Anxiety wants to move. It doesn't settle. They get up, they walk over, they lay down, they get up, they walk over, they sit, they pant heavily, they salivate, their eyes are really big, they keep moving, they jump on you, they move back, they whine. It's just constant motion. The brain is unable to settle, okay?
And there are times that I see that from her, but that's usually, that's when we're packing up, when we have the suitcases out, she's you gonna leave me? Or when we're at the vet, or right now, she's shaky and she does her nervous panting.
Yeah.
But when we were at the hunting lodge, she was
Calm.
Yeah, she, appears calm. When I first put the muzzle on her, she's annoyed by it, but then she'll settle and lay down and let us pet her and eat
So
treats.
it's normal, as humans, obviously we experience these emotions as well. Some people are more prone to anxiety or nervousness or fear than others.
I'm a therapist.
So it's normal for everybody to feel these emotions. It's just some people trigger into them more easily or they can stay stuck, right? Similar for dogs. So like when you first came, she was anxious.
Yeah.
But she settled after about 3 to 5 minutes, which
Yeah.
is normal. Okay, well that's a pretty good turnaround time. Okay, so I don't think the issue is anxiety. Fear, once it's turned on, will not let it go until the threat is gone. So if a person is in your home and she's scared of them, she'll start barking at them. She'll stay away because she's scared. If they move towards her, she'll keep barking and run away. If they move away from her, she will move in, but she'll stop at a point.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's pretty fair for when we've had like mechanics or something in our
Yeah.
house, and I just end up putting her in a room or a crate
That's
because I
pretty
want them to be
standard.
able to do their job.
Yeah, and it makes sense, right? Like, we obviously don't see these people on a regular basis, so for the dog, it's unnatural, and that's where the fear comes from. But that would be your fearful dog, okay? A nervous dog, they will settle, but then when there's a sudden change in the environment, they'll trigger, okay? So for example, like let's say you have a group of people at your house, they're watching a TV show, you have 8 people sitting on the couch, everything's fine. Something happens, one person jumps up and claps and shouts, the dog will trigger because of the sudden change
Yeah.
in the environment. That's typical nervous dog, okay? Right now, when we were talking, she was anxious at first, she settled. I said, okay, I don't really think you're an anxious dog. She came over, she relaxed. As you were talking earlier, you had hit your jacket, I don't know if you remember. She startled.
Yeah,
Did you
or
see
when
that?
the train went by.
Yeah, you'll see the startle, right? That's nervous dog, okay? So nervous dogs can sometimes seem unpredictable because they do settle, and then they randomly trigger. But it's not that it's random. It's that the human goes, you know it's a train,
Yeah.
so you don't care about it.
And that's what normally I can, like if someone's walking over, I'm gonna be with her, or someone's walking by, she likes to lay under tables, I'll usually go. But that's the thing, is that I can't be on her 24/7, and I can't perceive the same things that she perceives.
Yeah. So that's why, so nervousness, I believe, is her trigger. Like that's the pattern that I'm seeing.
And I got her when she was almost 2 years old, and I realized I forgot to include this. She had been found by the rescue when she was like an itty bitty puppy, like too young to be spayed and too young to be adopted. And it was just her, no mom, no other puppies. And then a couple months, once she was old enough and she had gotten spayed and stuff, they got her adopted. And somebody had her for a month, but she, I think, snapped at or bit a neighbor's kid or something. And so they returned her, and then she was in the shelter for maybe a year. And she and I visited probably like 8 times before I adopted her, just to be consistent and to get her to trust me. And because it was like in November or something, and I didn't want to adopt her right before I was about to go home or something. So I adopted her in January of 2020. But she's grown a lot in her like confidence, but clearly not in everything.
Yeah, because that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about that too. So one thing about nervous dogs is they notoriously do not get along with loud energy, big energy, or child energy. Okay, so earlier when you're like, if she sees kids, she's kind of like looking at them weird.
Yeah, 'cause
It's
they're-
they don't like the energy.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
spastic, and
So then the fact that she bit
yeah.
a kid prior to, like all that to me just kind of confirms in my mind this is a nervous dog. Okay, the instances that you're describing, to me, come across kind of as territorial, as well.
Wouldn't surprise me. I don't know that much if like breed affects things, but she's mostly Great Pyrenees and Chow, which I know are both dogs that are kind of the like fierce defenders of their person or their
I would
space.
have not put those two together when I saw her, but
Yeah, that's what the
saw
DNA
that.
test says. I don't know how much it is. She's very small for all the breeds that they said that she might be. But I see the Great Pyrenees sometimes with the kind of aloofness, and she marks when we're outside all around the house, you know, outside, I mean. And people assume Golden Retriever because she looks like this, and they want to treat her like a Golden Retriever. And sometimes I wish they made more assumptions about her as like, you know, like we fostered a dog for a bit that was a pit bull, and people would be like apprehensive, but he was just super friendly to everyone.
So that's unfortunately very common.
Yeah.
You know, I have plenty of dogs that look very sweet, but they're not sweet.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I know she's cute, but and some people also just don't read signs. That's why she tends to do better with people who aren't like, oh, dogs love me. I'm like, just take it down several notches, let her
Correct.
come to you.
Yeah.
But she has gotten accustomed to some loudness because my family is incredibly loud. Or you'll be yelling at games and stuff. That scares her a little bit more because it's unpredictable. And she'll scuttle away.
That's a nervous flight response there. So, and again, like all this stuff for the most part is normal, because all animals feel these emotions at some point. It's just some feel, they're either stuck in it or they feel it more easily than others, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Or they go from nervous to fight response or fear to fight response. And then that's where it becomes a problem, because now you get a dog that's, of course, being aggressive, okay? So, like I get the territorial because like the waiters, waitresses coming into your space. Now, I know they within that time, they probably came multiple times,
Yeah.
right? But then somebody steps a little bit too close, somebody leans over a little too long. Those are things that people tend not to notice, which could be the potential reason why there was incidents there.
Yeah, that
okay?
she notices, we don't.
The two uncles that came in being loud, but then also carrying something, kind of like a mechanic bringing in tools,
Yeah.
or a plumber bringing in tools, or an electrician bringing in tools. That makes sense to me in that kind of regard, even though she, like there was one uncle who said that they met multiple times.
Yes.
Right? Is that the defining factor is he also came in with just a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And was probably drunker throughout the night, so
Yeah.
probably got louder, as I know my family
Louder,
does.
sloppier,
Yeah.
you know, you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
Our movements are also, like, some dogs will trigger because, like, let's say someone doesn't
You're
have...
lurching, yeah.
Yes, like things like that. Because it's
That's why she doesn't like kids. They don't move in a predictable way.
Yes, they're unnatural, okay? Whereas once you're mature and you can actually walk and you have your posture and everything, it's normal, right? But little things like that, again, humans don't think about, but dogs are very observant. They're very keen on these things, okay? So to me, everything makes sense, okay? To the human, the dog owner, simply like, this doesn't make sense. It's unpredictable. But to me, I go, no, this all makes sense for what for the personality type that I think you have, okay?
And it doesn't surprise me too much, because there are times where I can see her getting stressed out, and so I'll take her to her room, or I'll sit and I'll pet with her. And so I imagine there are many times where, you know, I was able to intervene, or we were able to remove a stressful environmental thing, but it's just, I'd like her to, you know, be able to know that she's safe or whatever, or be able to be with my mom, who's not as, you know, hyper vigilant for some of the things, and not bite my uncles. I mean,
I'm assuming before booking this, you read up on the methods that we use and the tools that I
yeah, so I actually brought with me the e-collar that my mom had for her dog who passed away, because I don't know if it's the same one that y'all use, what the deal is. I just know that they can be expensive. So I'm trying to, so this is what my mom had for Oliver. He was very obedient. He's a,
Okay, yeah.
I mean, he was a
I know
golden
the company. I'm pretty sure it's the same company. They used to be known as Einstein e-collars.
but it's the one with the two little prongs, and it
E-collar
would give him a
technologies, I
little,
see.
like,
I got you. Yeah.
buzz.
How much does your dog weigh?
Tara's like 58 pounds.
So I'm familiar with this brand. This is not what we use, but I'll explain why.
Okay.
Okay. I used to use that brand 15 years ago when I first started my business.
Okay.
They're favored by a lot of dog trainers because they're more affordable. They are a good brand. I would say they're the second best brand. Okay. Their customer service is no one compares. It's the best. I used to sell their collars, and I could buy one collar from them. They would overnight it straight to my client, and I had a greater margin for profit with them. Okay. But then I had 3 aggression cases, and they were on that particular, not that model, but that particular brand. They were on the Boss collar because they were all large dogs, and they were all getting worse. Okay. And my mentor that I trained with in Miami, he uses Doctra. That's the brand that we use now. Okay. So I was like, all right, let me have these people get the Doctra collars. And I ended up buying the collars back because I was like, this is clearly something's wrong. They all got Doctra collars, and then we started making progress. Okay. Since then, I've never looked back, and I've just done Doctra. My theory is the stimulation, if you feel it in comparison, these tend to be sharper, whereas Doctra tends to be duller in terms of how the stimulation feels. Okay. That's my theory. Whether or not, you know, it is what it is, I don't know, but I compared them side by side, and then once I switched those 3 dogs over to the Doctra brand, we started making good progress, okay? And since then, I've not had any issues, pending the owners follow my advice when I tell them which collar to get. The other thing is, most of their models are meant for a 35-pound dog and under, okay? That model, I look just by looking at it, I can tell you it's meant for a 35-pound dog and under, okay?
I mean, yeah.
So the reason why this is important is we want to think, if a dog goes under stress, the stress levels kick in, and they override the collar. So you
Yeah,
find yourself
yeah.
being higher on the collar to get through everything, okay? If I have a dog also being aggressive, I'm not a scientist or anything, but I'm gonna assume adrenaline's pumping, right? Which is gonna negate any kind of discomfort. It's kind of like being in a fight, you get punched, you
yeah.
don't feel it, right? Same thing for the dogs. So when I'm working with an aggression case, and I'm talking about more severe cases, it's not uncommon that we end up going higher to cut through the aggression to finally get the dog to start thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing I have to factor in is that you have a dog with a longer, denser coat. Right?
Yeah.
Is if you have a lower output collar, the fur coat does act as a buffer that we're not going to really get the full. My child and my wife are upstairs with our dog.
I was like,
so-
yeah, I was like, it sounds like a dog up there.
So if you hear screaming, that's my kid. Yeah, so
No,
the
that
collar
makes
takes care
sense
of all that
because
stuff, yeah.
Oliver always had it really close to his fur. His wasn't as thick as hers because hers is like, you know, I try and get her wet to give her a bath and it takes 10 hours to just get through the fuzz.
So the other thing is I've been using Dogtra for 15 years now. I know the collar like the back of my hand. I know which collars I need to use. And I use like 5 different models. They have like 30. I only use 5. I like to keep things simple, okay? So that's all that in regards to that. So yes, we use e-collar, okay? In my opinion, it's the best training tool. Right off the bat, you get off-leash control. I've had clients after the first class, something happened, life, you know, car backfires, kid blows up a firework, whatever, and they're able to regain control within the situation because of the tool they had, just thinking on the fly. It wasn't that we had done any training for the particular situation. They were just like, oh, I had this on, let me see if it works, and it's worked, okay? When we deal with cases like yours, if something is making her anxious, okay, it's hard for people to understand this, but you can actually correct anxiety, okay? You can correct it and tell a dog there's nothing to be anxious about. It doesn't make sense to humans because we don't really do that, but with dogs you can, okay? So like I had a case yesterday, I had her first lesson. The dog was very anxious to start, okay? After a few minutes of doing some training, the dog started settling down, and then when he became anxious, I told her just press the button. She pressed the button, the dog went back to lay down. It's able to stop the cycle. It's able to disrupt it, if that makes sense. When the dog starts to get anxious, we correct, and they just go into a settled state, okay? That's also why we always want to make sure we have the appropriate collar, because if the dog happens to be super anxious, you're going to most likely need more pressure to get them to relax, okay? So earlier you mentioned pulling her out of the context and like petting her to help soothe
Which
her.
I don't, and I know how that can be problematic just from the theory of what I do with kids at work. Like you want to teach them that it's safe to be in this situation and build their abilities and their self-efficacy.
deal with it.
Yes, to deal with it. But there are some times where I'm like, okay, I can't explain that to her. And that's what so much of my work relies on words. Exposure therapy works because people buy into it. Doesn't always work and that's why I want to bring her out places. I don't just say, my mom's like, well, why would you ever bring her to the brewery? Why would, like, just trying to build some confidence, and she did there. Or when we have people over, trying to bring her out.
Yeah, and it's actually not about confidence to a degree. It's more her learning that there's certain things that she does that are not allowed, that are not acceptable, right? So if she's in a context and she's anxious, it's okay that she's anxious, okay? It's not okay that she acts aggressive because she's anxious. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So what we start doing is we start correcting these behaviors that we don't want, and we go, you have to deal with this a different way. And a lot of times it's just a dog learning, okay, aggression is not an option. What happens if I turn my back and pretend this thing doesn't exist?
Because I'm like, aggression's effective because it gets her away from whatever the stimuli is.
Yes, right. So we want to correct that. And in time, through exposure, it is possible for the dog to learn, oh, there's nothing to be anxious about, right? And that's like, so for exposure therapy or like flooding, like in the dog training world and all that stuff, right? It's effective if you can get the dog to not feed into their typical responses. Once they, like, if a dog...
The safety behaviors is what we call
and
it.
they go, okay, well, that's not an option anymore, and I'm sitting here, and I want to attack that thing, but I can't because I'll be corrected, but nothing is happening with the thing that I want to attack. Oh, I guess everything is fine. Like, that's how the dog starts to learn through repetition, okay? Now, the hard part is anytime you go to a brewery, if it's a new brewery, a new waiter, a new waitress, this thing resets to a degree.
And I haven't really done that much at all here. We're in Evanston, and I moved in. I guess I spent the summer with her at my parents', and then have been here since August, and with new job and just not knowing the places as well, and having her incidents over the summer. She just haven't had as many situations like that, but I do know a place that has a porch, so if I needed to train somewhere, I could. But yeah, she just hasn't been in as many situations to learn, I would say.
So then the next thing would be risk versus reward, right? So kind of like what I think you said your mom was saying, like, well, if she's not comfortable there, we're having these behaviors, right? Is it really worth risking her biting someone, even if you are doing training, right? Just to have her with you at the brewery.
Yeah. And that usually is an easy solution. The harder question is my mom being like, well, now we can't go to the hunting lodge if she's going to act like this. Well, now you can't. And I'm like, well, I need to bring her with me. We're going to be gone for 2 weeks. And I didn't have a trusted dog sitter. That's what last Christmas I didn't bring her because we had someone we trusted to have her for 2 weeks. And that's just a lot harder to find. But
so like the more things you have to think about, right? Now, just as FYI, any dog that's trained with us is welcome to use our services. Dogs that are not trained with us have to attend daycare once a week. Dogs that we've trained can come at any point.
Okay.
We just, if we haven't seen them in months, then we just ask for a clear fecal. As long as their vaccinations are up to date, we're good. I get clients in St. Charles, Lombard, Winnetka, Skokie, Indiana, Wisconsin, like right at the border, that they come like once, twice a year because we train their dog, but they're not going to come once a week for daycare.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and I get dogs comparative to your story, way worse. Okay, and they do fine here. So when it comes to helping her, really, right, is yes, we can push her to be in these contexts, correct her as these things happen. The other part of it is like, let's say she becomes defensive, she goes to snap at a waiter coming in. You correct her, right? Maybe she vocalizes, or maybe she panics because she goes under stress because of the environment, right? Now you have the human factor of people looking at you.
which is even more stressful for her and then for me.
Yes, right? And now, in my opinion, we just ride through it, we get it done, okay? It's hard for the client to do that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I work with parents a lot, and telling them how to deal with the kid who's like blowing up in a restaurant is don't just, like holding the.
So we draw similarities. Yes. You wouldn't be the first therapist that I've had as a client and stuff.
But then I think that sometimes makes me overthink things or anthropomorphize her because she's a dog, not a human.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. She's a dog, and things are a lot simpler. It's the human emotion and factor that makes my job complicated. I'm never worried about the dog. I'll get it done. It's always the client.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. That's the thing is, I'm like, that's why I feel so much guilt about it. Is I don't think it's her problem. It's my problem of why haven't I kept up with the training or things like that. Or
yes, and in part of it, sometimes, like from my experience, a lot of times people are dissuaded from continuing training because they're not seeing results. And in today's day and age, because of Google, and you can get an answer right away, they expect that right away. Okay, which is also why I do remote caller training. It's because it's much more obvious that you're making progress. So like, I get clients that live in high rises. I got one right after you who's going to be, it's their first class. They're moving to the South Loop into a high rise building. Their dog is a pitty who's a reactive, and he's going to be on an elevator, and I got to get it done within 3 classes, okay? Yeah. That he can be able to exist with this dog, okay? So, but that's why I do e-collar, because I go, okay, with the 3 classes are reasonable. It might be difficult, but I can get most of it done, right? And people see a significant enough of a change where they go, this is worth.
I mean, that's the behaviorism for us. It's reinforcing our behavior, so we keep doing it.
Correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing is, my goal for her, I don't care if I can't take her to breweries. I don't really give a fart about that. Like, it's okay if she just stays home and we go for walks around the neighborhood, and that's that, because I can manage that. But I just want her to be able to come home to my family's house where it's a little bit more chaotic and there's more uncertainties, or I want her to be able to be around my sister and, them to have a kid in the house and not worry, like, you can't bring that dog anywhere near. Not that they're going to be playing. I don't need her to be the best, aunt or whatever. She can just go in a room if the baby needs to play. But I just need to be able to like feel confident bringing her into the situations that I do have to because of the way what my family does.
Now, to have that, what do you think you need?
To have that, I need to put in the hard work to do whatever training so that she can have more, I guess, like be able to come down from that, you know, aroused place where she's all stressed out.
That's
And
part of it, but it's like a one-word answer. In order to be in a chaotic environment, what do you need?
I mean, what do I need or what do I want for her?
What do you need?
Tools, I guess?
Very close control. You need control, right? So when we have an uncontrolled environment, we have to have control of our dog. So when you go, I'm going to bring you into a chaotic environment. I'm going to bring you into an unstable environment. I'm going to bring you into a loud environment, right? All of that tells me like, that's not an environment I want to bring a dog into. If I'm going to bring a dog into the environment, I need control over the dog. Because I go, I can't control you guys, but I can control this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting here in my chair, my dog is in a down and won't break the down for nothing for hours. And all this stuff is going on. People coming in with beer and leaving and being loud and jumping up and clapping and running around. Kids are playing, right? That's all uncontrolled. But the control is here, which allows me to be within this context. Now, kid starts running over to me. Slow down.
Yeah.
Right? Now I'm going to assert myself because now she goes, hey, that energy started running over. Now you have to think, if she is under control and she knows she cannot budge because there will be consequence, and something she sees as threatening, a child can be threatening, right, is running towards her, she's going to be more heightened because she's thinking, I'm contained. I don't have options.
I don't have an escape.
Exactly, this is coming. So that's where we're more likely to see an escalation. But that's why I tell the client, or you need to assert yourself and then advocate and go, I know my dog's not going to move, but I know if you do something and you push too much, it's going to put her under too much stress. We're going to see something.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to address that situation. And in my opinion, the dog sees this. The dog goes, okay, I'm under control. I'm in a down. I can't move. I know that. This kid's running towards us, and I see you do this. The kid stops running towards us and then turns around and goes back to play with the
Yeah, that
friend.
she can rely on me to modulate those things.
So that's what gives her confidence. Is she goes, I don't have to worry because you will take care of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So part of it is not, it's not just, oh, it's the dog. Dog has to be fixed and be trained and all this stuff. It's the dog and the human because it is a relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
it
sure it's
does.
probably the same thing with kids. If we're in a situation and it's scaring the child, like you have to advocate and
Yeah.
to some degree try to control what's going on around you to give them confidence that
Yeah.
everything is okay.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing for dogs. People tend to put a lot of responsibility on the dog, and I go, the world's a crazy place because of humans.
Yeah.
It's not meant to look like this. This building is not meant to be here. That train is not meant to be here. Cars are not meant to be here. That's all human.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense. And I try and do like, there's a party that I know she, like that's going to be too much. Super Bowl she can handle. Or if people start getting loud, my friends don't really care about the football, but when Rihanna comes on at halftime, I'm putting her away because people are going to be loud and jumping up and yelling. Or if I see her getting whatever, or really focusing on the food and people are trying to eat or something, trying to modulate that.
And that you can correct. Like if she's like, ooh, food's coming out and showing too much interest, I can correct that.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with it.
She's usually fine with food.
know?
She's not going to get mad if
Yeah. But
she'll.
just so you're aware, like you don't have to always remove her. Like there's certain
Yeah.
things where I say, yes, we want to press, but there's other things where I go like, is the reward worth the risk? Right? Because if we already have, 3 bites technically, 1 on record, I don't know if they transfer across state.
Yeah,
okay?
I don't
That's
know.
something you could
And I don't know,
Google.
Justine just said she gave them my name,
Yeah.
owner's name, so I don't even know how that works, if they'd be able to connect me to her because I adopted her in Texas.
Unless they have your personal information, like
Yeah.
I don't think so personally.
I don't know either, and that's what it's also just, there's not a clear, like I looked up, like how do
There's
they.
not.
Yeah, there's
A
no.
lot of it is unfortunately scare tactic. So people control their dogs, which is
Yeah.
good. Like I agree, people should
I mean,
control
fair,
their dogs.
yes, I'm scared.
I have a client whose dog attacked 2 dogs before signing up. And he's a litigator, and we're talking about it. He's like, yeah, it's all bullshit. He's like, it's really just scare tactics. It takes a lot before they'll do
Yeah, to
anything.
me it seems like the thing is that it's whoever she bites would have to be the person that goes after it. Yeah, and it
So that's
just.
where you have to be careful
Yeah.
because of liability, because there is liability and stuff.
Yes.
It's just, I think people worry about like, are they going to they're going to repo my dog? I'm like, they can't. Like, unless it's like the 3rd bite on record and stuff, then yes, things become more serious.
I just don't want them to put her down because I had to be with my parents when they
Yeah.
put down Oliver this
Here,
summer.
I can tell you in the city of Chicago, it takes a lot.
Okay.
Okay. Trust me. And that's a story for another day. but you're being more so proactive here, right? So that's my other thing is that when I get clients like you, I look at it as my job's not really, it's to train a dog, but it's to help you keep your dog for the rest of their life.
Yes, because that's also the thing is that what's most likely for the risk to be is not that she's going to get put down. That is the scariest one, but it's more that my family just doesn't have trust in me or trust in her to handle this, and that they feel frustrated and angry at me and just like, what are you doing? You keep saying you're going to do something and then you didn't fix any of this. What,
Yeah, I understand. Trust me, I've been doing this
Yeah.
15 years. I know.
No.
Okay. So my job is to help you keep your dog. And then from what I've seen in the past, is once clients start obtaining and practicing their control, the environment sees you have control, which makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's also the thing that's frustrating to me is at some point I'm like, she's not going to be in that environment again until, I don't know, Thanksgiving, Christmas, maybe the summer we'll move to Boston because I'm finishing up a year of like a graduate school program. That was just a prac year here, and so we'll move up to his family, and then it'll be new situations if they meet your family because that's a different kind of chaos.
Yeah. It's a lot of change.
Yeah, lots of
Just so
change.
Like for any dog, that's a lot of change.
Oh yeah, I mean, she went the first 3 years of being with me with very little change. The biggest change would be you moving in with us, but that was on right at the end. And then we moved to a house for 2 years. But then this past year has been a lot more change of being home and then being here, being back in an apartment.
So how the training helps in these types of situations is that it gives the dog a familiar structure that can be carried from here to Boston, to New York, to California, to Florida, and back. As the dog goes, yes, these things change, but what doesn't change is the accountability, the regular structure, consequences, stuff like that. Like here, if you run a red light here, right, that's illegal.
Yeah.
If you run a red light in Florida, that's illegal,
yes.
right? Like it gives the dog a structure that's familiar that helps them settle faster and have more kind of consistency.
And that's what I set up for her versus for like a human. What I'm telling them is I'm like, yeah, more shit will come at you, but what you have now is the internal tools and confidence and efficacy to go out and handle whatever it is that's thrown at you. But for her, it's more externalized through us.
That is correct, yes. Dogs don't ever really internalize on their own.
No, they don't have the brain for
That's
that.
correct. Yeah, dogs are what I call reactive. They react to what you give them, right? They're not so much proactive in the sense where like you could wake up and decide, I want to do something about my dog, or I want to learn how to sing. That's a decision you can just make, right? Dogs are, in my opinion, completely reactive. If they're hungry, they're going to hunt in reaction to being hungry, right? If they
She doesn't have a frontal lobe to be like, let's plan out where I'm going to get my kibble today.
Exactly. Like, I've caused so much stress and anxiety for my mom. I'm going to be a good
Chill.
dog now,
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I know, and that's why I'm not mad at her for it.
Yeah.
She's just, she doesn't.
So with
not
that being said, this is where yes, your consistency has to be key. Like I can teach you everything, I can educate you and all that stuff, but in the end, it's you who has to then continue to apply. The good thing is once you're past like the training phase, so to speak, it's really just maintaining.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like if I want to work out and obtain a goal in terms of like my physique, the hard part is obtaining it. Once I've obtained it, then it's just maintenance, right? Keeping up to keep that physique. Same thing for you and your dog is once you get her to a point where you're like, I feel good about who she is now, right? Now it's continuing to do what you were doing. All the work's been done, but you're still practicing and applying to keep it in effect. And that's typically what gets people, the complacency aspect, right? Like, doesn't sound like you're gonna have this thought process, but this is something I come across a lot is, my dog's a good dog now. And then they stop.
It's why people stop taking antidepressants. They're like, well, I don't feel depressed now. I'm like, no, but that's because of the pills.
Correct, right? They become complacent, and then that's where things start to fall short, okay? And again, I've done this for so long, I've seen so many things, I already know the patterns that I'm gonna see. And even when I tell people, don't become complacent, 2 months later, hey, my dog bit somebody. What happened? Well, they were being so good. They did this one time, you didn't put the collar on. And I'm like, complacency, So it's, just what it is. It's us dealing with dogs and all that stuff.
You dealing with humans.
Exactly. So the good thing is nothing I've not ever seen before. Okay, the dogs aren't like people. Like a dog can very rarely surprise me now. 15 years into training dogs, it's very rare that I see something like, well, I'm not seeing that before. Okay, so in regards to the training, I always recommend in person for these kinds of cases because I already know how to deal with this. You need to learn how to deal with this.
Yeah,
Okay?
and that's what I also wanted him to come because obviously I did more of the talking. She was my dog for 2 years before she was also yours, but I wanted one to broaden our ability to do this and just timing wise if there are sometimes because my work is a lot more fixed and a lot more like I have to go up to Lake Forest, so just more driving, so in case there are times that you need to help out or step in because I know that in person is what's going to work and coming down to y'all because I know it's also going to be super expensive for y'all to come to us in Evanston. So I was like, if we can come down here.
There's another option too. Like you could start here and then we get like the beginning stuff done. And then towards the end, like I train out of Oz Park in the summertime.
And that's what I looked up, which is closer, I think, because it's farther.
Because
Like,
if you're Evanston, you just come down essentially LSD and you get like the exit's right there by Oz Park, you know, so that's always an option as well.
Okay.
But where we train doesn't really matter because I teach you how to, kind of like what you said, like how to now take what you've learned and then apply it elsewhere. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
to
very common
generalize
sense,
it.
logic based. As long as you have common sense and logic, we will make some progress. It's the client that always, they would like to be outside because of the experience it gives them. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But in regards to results, I tell people like it doesn't matter. Like if we train here or over there or in your neighborhood, it doesn't matter to me because I'm going to show you how to adapt to your environment to be able to have control or what have you. Okay, so depending, what's going to determine the length of time is really like how much control you're wanting and then the behavioral stuff. Okay, your case is going to be a bit trickier with the behavior because it's not obvious. We know it's there. So the dogs that walk in trying to attack me are easier to work with than this dog.
Yeah, I've said that before about kids where it's sometimes when they don't say anything or they don't, sometimes it's so much easier when a kid's like, I don't want to be here, I hate you, I don't have any problems. I'm like,
It's super
that's an emotion, thank you.
You don't have to pull it out, it's there.
No.
Right? In these kinds of cases, we have to pull it out, and sometimes when we try to pull out, we don't see it, and then we go months without seeing it, and all of a sudden we see it. That's what makes it difficult, okay? So in these cases, I have exercises that we can do, they're simple exercises. You would then have to repeat them outside. But then if she's not showing you anything, just keep that in mind. Like that's already something that I'm seeing here.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say?
I was just thinking, because that's something, I'd also want your advice when I go and try and practice, because I was able to do some loose leash work when we were at home with Ashley, my mom's trainer, and doing some of that and practicing it. But then when we tried to do it in the new setting of my new apartment when I moved here, she was just the treats were not salient for her because there were 50 other things going on, you know, and so it was just hard that I was like, I need some advice on this, or how do I do it when we're fine here, but then I take her there, you know, and it's
That
different.
doesn't matter what you call it.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't have.
It's salient enough to draw her.
It's gonna break her attention. It's gonna. She's gonna do it. That's why we don't do food, because food, if the stress levels are too high, go out the window.
And that's what I've seen with her. You know, she would probably take a treat right now, but when we first got in, she won't. When we're at the vet, she won't take any treats.
And so just to explain, because a lot of times when we talk about e-collar or prong collar, people tend to think punishment because it's an aversive, so they immediately think this negative thing. One, we have to understand dogs are physical creatures. They nip and bite, right? They nip and bite as a form of play, as a form of affection, where like they nibble, form of correction, right? Protection.
Yeah.
This here.
Because I've seen her correct dogs. Like when she plays, she's never like bit and drawn blood from a dog, but she'll do the correction. That can sometimes seem scary to people if they don't know what's going on. Yeah.
That doesn't make your dog an aggressive dog. It means she's establishing a boundary.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some dogs can follow it pretty well.
So e-collar allows us to, I call it a bite on a button, is we're essentially nipping and biting her to tell her what we want and what we don't want. Okay, so we're teaching in a way, in my opinion, that she instinctively understands, which is why my programs are so straightforward. Right, when a client goes from one class to the next and they come back like, Jesse, this is like a night and day, I'm like, beautiful. But that's why I use it. If I don't use what I know what won't work. Right, because I've been doing this for 15 years. If it's not going to work, why am I going to use it?
Yeah.
So the food, we use it for puppies under 6 months. We don't do puppies anymore, but we did. Because it's just shaping things, you know, teaching them potty training, crate training, stuff like that. Super simple. Once they hit 6 months, that goes away, and we do big boy, big girl training with remote collar. Okay. So Again, I'm not using this tool. I'm not worried about anything really. Okay, I've had clients in the past tell me, I don't want to use this tool. I want to use this one instead.
Okay.
And I go, then I don't work with you.
Yeah.
And they go, well,
I mean,
why
that
not?
makes sense. I've had to tell that to parents when they don't like when I'm going more reinforcement heavy, because it's a human, not a dog, that they want to do something and they don't like the approach. And I'm like, okay, well, then this is not the right
Exactly.
intervention for you.
Because I know what's going to work. And if the client says, well, I don't want to, I'd rather do it this way, then we can find somebody else. But I'm not, because I had one lady and she was buku bucks rich. Okay, she had like a mansion on the lakefront. And we're doing the consult. She's like, yeah, I want you to train my dog, food only, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And you could tell she's a lady that was in control because she was just telling me what I was going to do. And I was like, lady, I own my own business. Like, you're
Yeah,
not
I'm like,
gonna tell me.
I'm not confident enough in dog training things to tell you that.
And she's like, I don't care what your price is. I just want you to do it this way. And I said, I'm not going to take you as a client. And she was very taken aback. And she's like, why not? I was like, because the price that you're going to pay for me to use a method that I know is not going to get you where
It's
you want to
unethical.
be is you're going to be mad at me at the end
Yeah.
when you've shelled out thousands of dollars and I'm not going to put my reputation on the line despite the fact that this is easy money, right? And then she was like, well, okay, then I guess that's the end of this consultation. It was like the shortest consultation ever. And I was like, thanks for the $250, you know? But I've
And
done
that's
this long
what-
enough and I know what's going to work.
My mom is helping me pay for this because we don't make that much money, but so if we need to get a different collar, we can work that out.
One, I don't use this
Yeah,
model.
that's fine.
But then also,
No, I
would
trust
put
that you're
you
not.
on the Black Edition. Tina will send you the information. I don't care where you get it from. If you get it from us, it is 10% off. Once you're a client of ours, you do get 10% off everything that we have here, just FYI.
I trust that you're not just here to milk us for money. Like that's all right.
No, I'm very straightforward. I will give you options. What you choose to go with is up to you. So I would put you at around, so we do 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. I would put you like around 9.
Okay.
Okay, it's once a week for an hour, and if we have to change things around, it's not a problem. 6 is what I call bare bonesing it. Like I'm gonna really just cut out a lot of stuff, focusing on what I think is super necessary, but I'm bare bonesing it. Like I'm just doing what is essential.
9's all right with me. If that's what you recommend, I'll go with it because you know what you need to do. And
I meant 19, sorry.
oh, 9.
I'm joking.
I was like, okay. I mean, what is that from here? I don't know if I'm still going to live in this state. Yeah.
So 9 is enough time, because there's gonna be a point where I might tell you, take some time to practice. I'm not gonna see you for a little bit, okay? And then you come back a month later, 2 weeks later, 3 months later, when you're ready, and go, hey, Jesse, we hit a plateau. This is where we're at now. And I go, okay, great. This is what I was wanting, right?
Okay.
Because if I see you week by week, there's going to be a point where we wrap up the program, and then something's probably going to happen after the program because it was just so step by step. If this was obedience only, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Okay, unless we're doing off leash. When it's behavior, I care because I know behaviorally you might not see something for months, right? So that's why you need that time so you can get plenty of experiences and failures and successes before you come back and go, hey, Jesse, this is where we're at. This is how I feel. What do you think's next? And I go, great, here we go, okay? If you did 12 is when you want full off-leash control. It gives us plenty of time to work with the behavioral stuff as well, right? But all commands can be taught to an off-leash level. Sit, stay, down, come, place, heel, okay? It's whether or not you want that to be to that level, okay? This, to me, appears to be more of a behavioral case.
Yeah.
Control is going to be a part of it because, like I said, if your environment's uncontrollable, but you can control your dog, that's what's going to help you, okay? So there's going to be stuff where I'm going to go, you may think that this is not useful, but this is where it's going to be useful.
Yeah.
And then from there, you have to practice and apply it, okay? So 9 is a nice middle ground. 6 is kind of like we're on a budget and we're tight, and I'll come in and then realistically speaking, I'm going to tell you, like, we need more time, but I'm going to give you the best that I can with those 6 classes. 12 is kind of like we have our bases covered and then some. I know you guys said you might be going to Boston, or you are going to Boston. As FYI, when I've had clients do 12 classes, and they're like, they use 10. They're like, Jess, we have 2 classes. We're very happy. We don't need them. What do? I go, we convert them to credit, and then when your dog comes to the board, we just apply it to the boarding. The invoice is not a problem.
And I'm fine to do 9, and then if I feel like I want more or
completely
need
fine.
more,
Yeah,
seems
that's
like
not a problem.
for that.
We don't prorate programs, so the cost of 3 is more expensive.
That makes
So
sense.
then, yeah, so just as FYI, we don't just charge the difference. It would just be the cost of 3.
Okay.
When a client goes, we want 9 or 12, it's cheaper the longer
Yeah,
the
the
program.
longer you go.
Yeah. But 9 is what I'm recommending, okay? The collar itself, without the discount, is around $340-ish with tax. With the discount, it drops to about $305-ish with tax, okay?
Okay.
It comes with a 1-year warranty. I had my collars for like 10 to 12 years before they finally crapped out and had to buy new ones. So it's a very good product as well. If something happens within the first 30 days, bring it to me. I give you a new one. I deal with the company myself. Okay. Otherwise, after that, you have a year of warranty to be able to send it back in case it needs repairs. The most common thing that happens is the battery's a rechargeable lithium battery, so it does give over time. Usually it takes years, but every now and then there's like a bad battery. If it's out of warranty, it's very easy to replace yourself. It takes 5 minutes, $25. I do it for my clients for $35. But that's like the most common thing I see is the batteries just give out. Okay. Common question I get is, Jesse, when does the e-collar go away?
It doesn't.
When you need it, it doesn't.
Yeah.
When you need it. If your dog is a great dog and you go, we've never had a problem here, and I don't need the collar, you don't have it. Okay. But if it's like we have 50 people coming over, it's going to be very unpredictable. There might be kids, this and that. You need it. Yeah. Okay. If you're going to be at a brewery, you need it. You're going to be out letting her be off leash, you need it. Okay. Anytime where you're going to be where it's uncontrollable to a degree. As I tell people, you can.
I mean, to her, it's anything outside of the apartment.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when anyone comes into the apartment.
Yes, that's normal. It's just
No, Oliver wore his 24/7, except for if he was asleep in his crate.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm not to that degree. If you want to be like that, perfect. It's even better. Okay. But definitely when I go, if you're going to be outside or people coming inside, that's typically when people need it. And this is fairly common with any dog. Okay. Even the happy-go-lucky ones, because then they get too excited and they knock someone over. Okay. Other questions?
No, I'm sure I will have some in the future. I'm sure I will have some. Yeah, but none that are coming to me right now.
Okay. If you forgot to ask anything, you can always email Tina. If they pertain to me, she'll email me. I'll email her back. She'll forward it to you. Once you're a client, scheduling questions are all done through Tina. Training questions, of course, will then all be directed to me. At that point, you would have access to me. I tell my clients, you always have my technical support. I get clients from 10 years ago that'll still ping me with an email. I'm always happy to answer any questions, even if it's something we've never seen before. I will give you my opinion, and I'll tell you this was a fluke moment, all the wrong things at the right time, because that does happen. Or I'll tell you, like, this looks like it's starting to become a behavioral problem. I would, find a trainer in your area if you're not here. I've even helped train clients in the past who moved out of Chicago, find a trainer in their area. All that I would tell them is find some that you like and then send them to me, and then I will look at them and I will tell you which one I think you should go with if I don't know them myself. I'm always happy to help, okay? Because your dog is how old now? 6? 5?
6. She's 7 in February.
Okay.
Yeah.
So possibly another 7 to 8 years, if not maybe more, right? That's a long time for things to happen and for things to change, even behaviorally. So, questions are expected to come up at some point. Okay. But other than that, just a day in the office for me. Nothing I've not seen before. Pretty typical stuff for with your dog's kind of personality type.
Yeah. So do I email Tina to schedule or
Correct.
do that right now?
If you want to expedite things, what you can do is you can email her, tell her, Tina, sign us up. We want 9 or 6, whatever it is. Here's our schedule. Send her both of your schedules, because that's gonna be one of the first things she's gonna ask, and then she'll send you the contract.
And would y'all want like both of us there, one of us there, like what?
Ideally both. We
Okay.
do record the training sessions. You do get the videos as future reference, so if it's something you ever forget or misremember. It is also great for helping resolve couple disputes where someone misremembers something. Like, let's just revert to the video. And then ideally both, so everybody's always on the same page. If your schedule is a bit more hectic than her schedule, I've had clients in the past who are like nurses, and they have like rotating schedules. It's not a problem. There just might be a time where I don't see you for a week or two because their schedules don't line up.
Yeah, because I have a very consistent schedule, but yours is more evening heavy than mine and varies based on the season.
Otherwise, definitely the first 2 are the most important, or some of the most important, and then the one where we would cover behavioral stuff would be super important. Everything else is kind of like, if you can make it, that's great. If you don't want to have to like really stress about it, it's fine to skip a few. But definitely classes 1, 2, and then when we do the behavioral stuff, which might be as early as class 3, if not a little bit later, are the definite ones you want to attend. Okay. And again, right now you're actually coming in at a good time, because in the wintertime I do a lot of boarding trains and daycare trains, and my in-persons pick up in the summer, and boarding trains and daycare trains go down. So right now I'm in a little bit of a lull with my private clients, where I have space and availability. So you're coming in at a good time. But then Tina, as long as we know ahead of time, she's able to adjust my schedule accordingly to be able to try to fit both of you in.
Yeah.
Okay. Feel free to read over the contract. Feel free to ask any questions you have in regards to the contract. Do keep in mind it is first come, first serve. So if like there's times that she had given you and then you come back 2 weeks later and like, hey, Kate, we're ready. She's like, well, some of those slots are now not available.
Yeah.
So just heads up on that. But otherwise, please review. It's pretty straightforward stuff. And then she'll send you the information for the collar. She'll send you a cost breakdown and then take it from there.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
So first thing I'll do is email Tina, say we want to do 9 sessions, and here are our availabilities.
Correct.
That's okay.
Yes, that's going to help expedite because that's exactly what she's going to ask you. If you're like, sign me up, and then she's going to turn around and ask for all those same things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So you're a step ahead there.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm good.
No, not at the
Well, it
moment.
was a pleasure meeting you guys.
Yeah, same to you.
Again, if you forgot anything, you can ask her. She'll get to me if it pertains to me. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and then have a nice day.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Then
you
can
so
just
much.
take your mics and put them on the couch.
All
Let
right,
the chair there.
Okay, Miss Worm, hold on. No.